If you are a frequent listener to the podcast, you know that we have been sponsored by Fuji Sports for quite some time now. Whether you're looking for apparel, equipment, bags, or accessories, Fuji Sports has got it covered. Go to Fujisports.com to see the latest selection of everything you need for your jiu-jitsu, judo, or MMA journey. That's Fujisports.com. Let me take a minute to tell you about RŌL TV. If you're looking to take your jiu-jitsu to the next level and supplement your BJJ education, then RŌL TV has you covered. RŌLAcademy.tv has over 1,500 videos covering individual techniques, positions, and concepts, including seminars and workshops with top-level competitors and instructors like Chris Wojcik, Robert Drysdale, Aaron Hurley, Emily Kwok, and more. Whether you are a beginner or more advanced student, RŌL TV is the online platform that can take your jiu-jitsu to the next level. What's up, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please hit the like, share, subscribe, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. This helps us bring you the great guests and amazing content that you've come to expect. On this episode, Thomas's guest reflects on the journey of Tap Cancer Out, discussing the impact of their work in the community, the challenges faced in building a nonprofit organization, and the importance of perseverance and grit in leadership. He emphasizes the significance of feedback from the community, the role of volunteers, and the need for efficiency in tournament organization. Tap Cancer Out is currently on its fall tour, and as of this release has stops in Austin, Chicago, Pittsburg, Philadelphia, Detroit, and Massachusetts, culminating with Global Grappling Day on December 13th. Here's the RŌL Radio with the founder, executive director, and board president of Tap Cancer Out, Jon Thomas.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we're live. Jon, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
It's been nearly 5 years. November 18 of 2020. We had you on episode number 25. Jeez, that was a very long time ago. I feel like it's been a minute, huh?
It has, yeah. I had just moved to Charlotte then, because I moved down to Charlotte in October of 2020. So
yeah. You were right in the midst of all of this. I actually remember you guys didn't have official nonprofit status at that point.
No, we did in 2020. We did. Yeah.
I remember us having that conversation.
Long time ago.
Yeah. Listen, before we dig into changes and everything that happened in the last 5 years with you and Tap Cancer Out, there was this phenomenal quote by Steve Jobs. People who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you are changing the world?
I do feel like I'm changing the world. Yeah, and the Tap Cancer Out team, the Tap Cancer Out community, definitely. It is one of the reasons why I love this quote unquote job the most. And one of the reasons, or maybe even the primary reason, why I wanted to turn this from a part-time passion into a full-time endeavor, because all of my other jobs really felt quite meaningless. And I knew that I was not changing the world if we sold more Life Water or Diet Pepsi or anything like that, or got, helped Papa John's sell a few more pizzas when they pair it with a Pepsi. Like, none of that really made me feel like I was doing anything good. We were just making decks and cashing checks. And it was very unfulfilling. It was like a fun industry. Advertising was fun to be in, and met lots of great people who are still friends, obviously. But, I just wanted to do something meaningful. And I was surrounded by friends who were already doing that. And so just having that adjacency made me feel a little uncomfortable too. So that sometimes helps to motivate people to figure out a way to make a difference. Did I ever think it was going to be this? No way. No way. I mean, in the beginning, we didn't know what it was going to be, but definitely never thought that we would get this far. It's just been like a one foot in front of the other type thing. But yeah, we're definitely changing the world.
I feel like many people, I think all of us in some ways, we want to make a change. I think that's deeper embedded into human chemistry, if you will. We want to be helpful. We want to impact others. We want to teach others. We want to help them, you know, especially if we are parents. I mean, I think that's very, very much so visible.
Yeah.
But I also think that many people give up very early in that grand scheme of things when this idea becomes reality. And listening to you through various media and just even following your story, I can only imagine the amount of work that takes to do what you do. But also, I'm wondering how much of grit and perseverance and this push does it take on your part to be truly a leader on the top of this pyramid, on top of where everybody looks up to you, and really without you, this all could very easily fall apart. And I'm pretty confident there were plenty of reasons where you probably had a reason to say this is enough. Like, I'm going to go back to the advertising.
Yeah, you know, first of all, I think you're giving me a lot of credit. This definitely would be just fine if I was not here now.
You're a very humble man,
team.
but
I'm sure it would continue. I'm sure it would continue. But, you know, obviously in the beginning, you know, it was a lot of work when you pile it on top of the work that I already had to do, you know, for my 9 to 5. So then you're just like cramming it into odd hours of the evening and late nights and stuff like that. So sort of getting it off the ground with no sort of street cred for what we were doing. You know, when people would hear about our tournaments, they had never heard of us. Whereas like you've heard of a lot of these other tournament organizations for years, if not decades. So we had to like create that credibility. We had to figure out how to be tournament hosts, both tournament hosts and a nonprofit. All these other tournament organizations, they just have to be tournament organizations and run tournaments. We have to be both. You know, we have to operate as a nonprofit, figure out how to fundraise effectively, work with our beneficiaries effectively, make sure we're handling all the finances correctly. We get, you know, audits take months and months. So we have to do all of that, plus host a really good tournament and do that 21 times a year and do all the travel and do all the setup and make sure we have all the equipment and the right staff and that we're keeping up with the Joneses and any sort of innovations that are happening in the tournaments that flow into ours as well. And maybe sometimes we're leading that innovation or those innovations. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. I have a wonderful team behind me now that has taken a lot off my plate. So I'm not, you know, so now that I went full-time Tap Cancer Out in 2018, in July 1st, 2018 was my first day as a full-time employee here. And, you know, once I was able to just focus on Tap Cancer Out and not my other job, that really helped my quality of life and, you know, helped me focus on the things that I wanted to do. So I don't even feel like I'm burning the candle at both ends like I used to. Now I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. They both play multiple sports. You know, so just handling like dad life and tournament life and Tap Cancer Out life and making sure they're picked up from school and getting to their multiple practices a day and trying to make as many games as I can. All of that stuff has actually added to the degree of difficulty of doing this. But, you know, there was never a time where I was like, man, I just want to give up. It was always like, how do I take the next step to making Tap Cancer Out all that I do? So, you know, because I just wanted to quit my regular job.
Where does that come from? Because, like, you know, obviously I've talked to, you know, 200 plus people on this show and then thousands of others are around through students and people who come through Academy and friends. And I think that what you are describing, this grit to push forward towards the common goal that you have in your mind, is actually very uncommon in today's world. I feel
Mhm.
I do feel that we all dream, we all have ideas,
Yeah.
but I think majority of people don't execute on the ideas, and whoever does, there is actually a small percentage who will go above and beyond to achieve the goal that they set for themselves.
Well, when it comes to quote unquote changing the world, and that's a really big phrase to say, and it encompasses a lot of things, but even just the idea of like helping others, it's difficult to do it on a large scale. If you see an unhoused person on the street with a sign asking for money, the thoughts come into your head. All right, well, if I give them $5, are they going to spend it on food, or are they going to spend it on something else? And like, what difference is it going to make if I do this small thing? So I get that it's hard for people to feel like they can do anything that is going to make a difference in a grand scale. And what we do at Tap Cancer Out does make a difference at a grand scale. We have donated $7.75 million to our beneficiaries, which feels like a big number. But if you think about how much funding is necessary, how big and widespread and complex of an issue cancer is in general, and cancer supportive care, and even to survivorship, what happens after you survive cancer, how do you go through life, like that is a really, really big problem that we are a very, 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 very small part of. And it took a long time and many years and a lot of effort just to become a small sort of cog in that machine. So I usually, I think that of any sort of dream, and if your dream doesn't scare you, you're not dreaming big enough. But it's also the scary element of it is what make people not even quit, but not even start. I think like once you get started, especially if it's like meaningful and gains any bit of traction, you can keep going. But like and I always say this, like when I'm asked like what's the one piece of advice you give anybody who's starting a business or jiu-jitsu business or a nonprofit or anything like that, it's that there's never going to be a good time to start. You will always have excuses, and people make the same excuses for starting jiu-jitsu. I'll start jiu-jitsu once I lose 20 pounds or something. No, well, just start jiu-jitsu and you're going to lose 20 pounds. Like there's never a good time to start jiu-jitsu. There's never a good time to start your company. Like there's always excuses. And when I look back on starting Tap Cancer Out, I can't believe how naive I was. And I'm proud of that Jon, of blue belt Jon, to think that he could host a tournament. I had only competed in maybe 3 tournaments when I hosted the first Tap Cancer Out tournament. I knew sports, I knew brackets, I knew how but I'd never hosted a tournament. I'd only been to a few. It wasn't like I was some established competitor, black belt, been to hundreds and hundreds of tournaments or coached at them or anything like that. Like I was relatively green. I obviously didn't have a name. Nobody knew who I was. So I was pretty naive in thinking that I could host an event that was going to attract enough people to have good, full enough brackets to make the tournament feel, fulfilling, and that, kids aren't fighting other kids who are 50 pounds heavier than them, although we didn't even have kids at our first tournament, but adults who, white belts having to fight blue belts because they didn't have anyone in their division. We ended up having 150 adult competitors, which is a decent turnout for a first year tournament. Now, like I'll take that now, especially when you add in kids. So, I just think it was the newness and of the idea and how unique it was, the first time ever that anyone had hosted a charity tournament. There's plenty of charity seminars, and like philanthropy was not new to jiu-jitsu at the time, but to fold it into this tournament model where you could fundraise to compete for free and earn more stuff, and we really celebrated the fundraising accomplishments, top fundraising team, top fundraising individual, top fundraising youth competitor, like celebrating all of that stuff and having a beneficiary attached to it. That's what really helped it take off. And it didn't even take off like it was a rocket ship. We were just add a tournament every year. So like we did our Connecticut tournament in 2012, our Connecticut and Massachusetts tournaments in 2013. And it just was like adding one more.
Mm-hmm.
Can we repeat it? Can we repeat it in this city? Can we make this change and repeat it again? How do we make it better? I was handwriting brackets in the beginning. That's not okay. So like I had to get away from that really quickly. Where are we going to find somebody who has like bracketing software? Smooth Comp didn't exist. So we had to solve all those problems and get better. You know, we had our own mats by tournament number 2. So we knew like what we had to fix. But yeah, it was just incremental steps and a sort of naivety to just start and figure it out along the way. And obviously I wasn't going to like know what I was doing or how to do it, but I was just going to leap and hope the net appears.
Remind me, what year was the first one?
2012. Spring of 2012. Yeah. So I come up with the idea in 2010. And then we just sort of noodled on it and had to do all the things to get our our nonprofit, our 501c3 status. We got that in early 2011, but we really spent all of 2011 like calling tournaments and asking if we could have tables there. You know, we didn't really have a business model, the tournament model at least. And it was really just the constant doors slamming in my face. Like, well, we can't exist and thrive and grow if we're just latching on to other tournaments
else.
And like depending on other people to host tournaments in certain areas so that we can then go and have a table or whatever. We had to do our own thing and host our own tournament and have our own proprietary sort of model and event that people could take part in. And we borrowed from a lot of other organizations too. My wife and I ran a half marathon with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. They really helped me understand the fundraising model where we committed to fundraising a certain amount, but in return, we got all of these perks. You know, they obviously bought our entries to the half marathon. They got us a hotel room the night before, a big dinner the night before, all these resources to train leading up to the event, a tent for fundraisers at the event. So we had like food and drinks before and after. And
I mean, all of this is a lot.
Yeah, so
like just a lot.
It was, yeah.
Over 12, 13 years, essentially. When this idea was born in your mind, and I don't necessarily want to recap everything that we talked about in our original episode, but when this idea was born, there is a dream. Jon has a dream. And we fast forward 12, 13 years. How much of that dream has been accomplished and how much of it has changed because of the things that you have learned?
I mean, my initial dreams have all been accomplished. So you just move the goalposts and they're just as meaningful goals now as the original goals. So I just wanted to, I wanted to have a job that felt fulfilling where I could come up with ideas and see them actually come to life. I wanted, to actually be able to tell people like the job that I do and the impact that we've made and to like know that I've made my mark in this world in some way, shape, or form. I wanted to be able to employ my wife so that we could do this together. And, that neither of us had to answer to like some other boss.
First, hold on, pause. Who is the boss? You or your wife?
Who do you think is the boss? It depends what we're talking about.
Yeah, I know, right?
But like just being able to run this with somebody that you trust indefinitely and ultimately, and we're in like what would have been the conference room of this office space, and she's got a desk in here too. So like we share the same office. And it's wonderful. Like I know that she's fully bought in. I think everybody on the Tap Cancer Out team obviously is, but it's a little different, when it's your wife and, that she's in it for the long haul. She's not going to go leave for another job or anything like that. So, we're in this together. So like, And I remember so it was a little nerve wracking when I did, went full time. I needed to be on my wife's benefits, so she had to continue working at her agency. And so when I was able to hire her, bring her on full time, that it was all a bit nerve wracking to make sure that, and especially because she was hired in early 2020 and then COVID hit and we couldn't host any events. So that was like the worst. If somebody had told me what was going to happen, I would not have been hiring anybody. So that was bad timing, but we were able to figure it out and make it work. So now I forget what your question was or how we even got here, but the dreams. So just, be like that is so meaningful. And, like when I go to bed on a Sunday night, I don't have the Monday morning dread of like going back to the real world. And I used to do, when I was doing both jobs, I would do all the Tap Cancer Out stuff on the weekends. We would host a tournament. It would raise $200,000 and we'd have 600 competitors. And it was this whirlwind thing. And then on Monday, I'm back in the office, like nothing happened. No one knows that where I was or what I was doing or how much we raised. And they're like, you have that strategy deck ready? So like I was literally going from one world to another. So I don't have to traverse those two different worlds now. So that's wonderful. But then, when you dream of these bigger numbers, like our first donation to Leukemia Lymphoma Society, I think was somewhere around $28,000, 26 or 28. So then I was like, man, just wait till I can donate like 100,000, or wait till a tournament raises 100,000. I remember the first tournament that raised 100,000. It like blew my mind. And then we gave a gift of 100,000 and then 110 the next year. And I was like, well, what if we get to like 250? What if we get to 500? And then we're hitting those numbers. What if we get to 1 million? Then we gave 1 million. What if we get to 1.5 million? Then we gave 1.5 million. So, the numbers just like get larger.
Does it ever feel like that these goals are reachable? And I mean this in a sense of every number that you describe obviously is a meaningful number at that point of time, because it was something that you were aiming for, but yet the following number proves that what was before that actually was not that significant. Like, I mean, and I don't mean this in any shape of disrespect, but if we look at 1.5 million and 100K, there's a big difference and the big gap in these things, right? And obviously it takes a lot of effort and changes and processes and leadership to get to these points. But do you feel like there is a point in which you will be satisfied? You will sit back on that Sunday night without the drag coming to the following morning, and you're going to say, you know what? We actually did a good job. This was good, satisfying, and period.
It is satisfying, but it's also like everything we've done is satisfying. But also like especially sort of as an entrepreneur, which I feel like it's cliche to call myself, but you got to have the next, like you got to be chasing after something. So we have a goal of yearly gifts of $5 million within the next 3 years. We're only at 1.5 right now. So that's scary. Like we're going to have to triple. Like how do we triple what we're already doing? And we have ideas, and we've executed on a lot of them so far. But yeah, it's just like, what's the next big scary goal, and how do you get there, and how do we make it happen? So there's always something we're all moving towards as a team, and we have a goal, and it's kind of scary, and it's never like we have yearly goals and then 3-year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, all that stuff. So the yearly goals are never like terrifying, but as you like go further out, like and look at like 3 years, 5 years, those start to be terrifying. But we can do it as long as we're sort of going at it, I think, incrementally, and we start to accomplish the things that we're trying to accomplish. One of the easy ways to do that is to just host a ton more tournaments. I don't want to do that. So the question is, how do we get there without adding more events? I already missed too many soccer games and volleyball tournaments for my kids already. So I'm not going to just double that. There's only 52 weeks in a year, and we are adding more tournaments next year, but so it's about getting out of our bubble. There's something like, when an opportunity arises, like the Craig Jones Invitational, and they announce that they want a beneficiary partner. Well, we got to win. Like, we have to call in every favor. When they're talking about hosting a jiu-jitsu event that is going to be philanthropic, they have to partner with the jiu-jitsu nonprofit, which is us, we believe is us. And then additionally, we've started to go to even just having a booth at Jiu-Jitsu-Con every year. We never did that before. We never got out of our bubble. We just hosted our tournaments. Really diving headfirst into Global Grappling Day, because that's the only event that we have that is international, borderless, unlimited scale. When we have tournaments, you can only have so many people attend. There's only so many parking spots. It's only drivable within a certain conceivable distance. But Global Grappling Day is anyone, anywhere. So how do we build that from a $250,000 event to a $500,000 to being our first $1 million event? So we have plans for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's all really exciting. These are all big, scary goals, and but at the end of the day, like, if we don't hit them, it's also not the end of the world. We're still gonna land amongst the stars, and we're still gonna give a big gift to all of our beneficiaries. But yeah, there's always more to be done.
Well, and there's a lot of behind the scenes that I think people simply don't know. Like,
Yeah.
it is just from a sponsorship, partnerships, and all
Mhm.
the other things. People see Tap Cancer Out as an event that takes place oftentimes in the local city,
Right.
and you're describing 20 plus around the country,
Right.
right? So, like, for those of you guys who are listening, like, think about this. 50 some weeks in a year, every other weekend, you guys are doing something, and
Mhm.
and that's tournaments only. We're not talking about anything else, right? And
Yeah.
now you're talking about scaling this out into other avenues and other opportunities, which brings me to the point which I want to ask at the beginning, and we got sidetracked. But how do you differentiate yourself? Because ultimately, and at the end of the day, this is a business of competition. And I don't mean jiu-jitsu competition. I mean competition between business to business. If people go to a different tournament, they don't go to yours. And you want them to go to yours because ultimately this is how you donate money and then make that impact, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people don't think about this, right? But like, that's the important part, right? So how do you separate yourself? How do you, like, we have all these new ideas, CGI, ADCC is kind of in their own thing. IBJJ have their own thing. Everybody's trying to change how the jiu-jitsu entertainment / competitive arena is being shaped. And I think personally, we are in a very unique time in jiu-jitsu where all this is being developed. Like, we are watching this.
Yeah.
And you are in the middle of it.
Yeah.
How is your head spinning to this? Because some will say, well, we can stick with IBJJF and they clearly successful. They're doing what they are doing. You can piggyback off of this and life is good. But is that enough? Or you do need to be creative?
So what we don't want to do is fall into the trap of believing that we are differentiated enough because we're the only tournament that is philanthropic. We're the only nonprofit tournament. And from day one, that's something I screamed to the mountaintops, or from the mountaintops to my team. Because a lot of people think, charity equals cheap. So if I'm going to go to will you play in this charity basketball game? Well, they're probably not going to have referees. You can double dribble, like all this stuff. Like, my wife and I played collegiate volleyball. If somebody asked us to play in like a charity volleyball tournament, it doesn't really sound interesting to us, because we played at such a high level. So I didn't want people, I didn't want that to hang over us as a charity event. So we had to make sure that we were leveling up as much as possible, as quickly as possible, without like overspending or anything. But we had to make sure, like, I can't handwrite brackets, for very long. We have to have good mats. We have to be able to stay on schedule. We have to have a good check-in process. We have to have good referees. My teammates were the referees at the first event. They weren't real refs. They were just like the purple belts and the brown belts that I trained with. They didn't even know they were reffing. They got there and I like threw them on the mat, like, though, like it was for the very first tournament, we definitely bootstrapped it, but from tournament number 2, everything changed. Because I knew that we had to do things differently. So we always have to make sure that we are providing a product that is at least equal, if not more. And we're always trying to figure out how to be better. One of the ways that I feel like we can be better is with our efficiency. So like how quickly we run the tournament, how on time we are, if not ahead of time, is massively important. Because granted, I haven't competed in 5 years, and things have gotten a lot better across the board. But throughout most of my competitive jiu-jitsu career, no tournament was ever on time. Warm up, cool down. Warm up, cool down. Like I remember. I won't name any names. I remember my now wife. She was a fiance at the time. Maybe no. I guess I got married right at the beginning of jiu-jitsu. So yeah, we were married. She came to a tournament, drove down from Connecticut to New Jersey, got there at 10. I was supposed to go in the morning. By 3:00, she had to leave, and I hadn't competed yet.
Oh, yeah.
Like 5 hours late already, and it was like that can't happen at a tap cancer out tournament, because if we are inefficient, and sort of mismanage the way that we do tournaments, what do they think we're going to do with the money that they're raising? We're going to mismanage the money. So like everything that we do as an organization and through our tournaments reflects on us as a nonprofit. Again, we have to be both, so
not only that, but people who, are there and their time is being wasted or burned out, they won't come back.
Yes.
Why would they? I mean, I had these same experiences in the past when like you show up to the tournament. Like I remember one particular, again, no names, but like my first match was at midnight.
Yeah.
At midnight.
Never. We would never ever do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I completely
like you have
understand.
to, and also even just you think about the team that's working the events and the referees and our volunteers. We only bring about a half dozen actual Tap Cancer Out employees, or they're not even all employees. Only a couple real full-time employees. They're mostly run by volunteers. And if we have somebody showing up at 7:30 in the morning and not leaving till midnight, they will never come again. That's for sure. So we have to make sure that we are respecting their time. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we don't do gi and no gi. There's financial issues where, people aren't going to fundraise twice, but if you host a gi and a no gi event together, you're basically hosting two tournaments, but only raising money for one. So that's the whole thing. But also you're doubling the time that your whole staff has to be there. So they'll appreciate just a shorter day. We have to make sure that we are efficient in that way, which means we have to do things differently that people kind of feel uncomfortable and don't like. Even though we use Smooth Comp and people are so used to, registering on Smooth Comp, seeing what mat they're supposed to be on, seeing what time they're supposed to be fighting, and seeing the person that they're supposed to fight. And it gives them this false sense of security, like they know exactly when they're going to fight. Of course, then the mat changes, then their opponent doesn't show up, and the opponent like everything changes, but they don't even remember that part. They just remember the fact that they were able to see where they theoretically were and when they were going to compete. We don't do it that way because we also don't disqualify people. So if you miss weight, if the parents have no idea what their kids weigh. They are in completely wrong divisions, like not even close, wrong belts, wrong everything. Adults show up 10, 15 pounds overweight and just like, oh, okay. So we make sure everybody gets in a division, which means I got to wait till I know who has shown up, who hasn't, and what everybody weighs before I can bracket people so that we can bracket them effectively. And we don't create the bracket until we're ready to launch it. So like not having that information rubs people the wrong way a little bit, but I assure you that's why we are so stinking efficient. And that's why sometimes we have tournaments where we're an hour ahead of time and I'm literally calling people on the phone being like, hey, white belt, I know you're like drop dead time is 2:00, but we're running ahead of schedule. Can you get here earlier? And they're like, ahead of schedule? What are you talking about? So it's like so foreign, but like, and people are like, well, why can't you just schedule it? Well, because it's not going to be efficient and I need to be efficient. I need to respect your time, my staff's time, everybody's time there. And, you know, to be honest, this year we have faced the most sort of same day competitive tournaments. So there, you know, we had to cancel our Nashville tournament because IBJJF dropped in on us. We had to move our Detroit tournament because they dropped in on us. And again, I don't think they're checking anybody's schedule, certainly not ours. So there's no, like, they're not targeting us. It's just bad timing and bad luck. And when it's IBJJF, we move. Sometimes when it's other tournaments we do, and sometimes we don't. But our Austin tournament, there's another tournament going on, you know, 45 minutes outside of the city. So, and we can't always move. We don't always have that luxury to be able to move it to a different date or the next day or anything like that. So we have to make sure that when these people are presented with a choice, that they choose Tap Cancer Out. And it can't just be, well, we're the charity one. Of course they're going to choose us, because they don't always choose us. They will, you know, I understand, especially if a no-gi person, why they're going to want to do a tournament that's offering no-gi on the same day that we're only offering gi. You know, if their whole team is going or whatever. So it even has to go up the ladder. Like, we have to make sure we're working with the academy owners so that they understand that they're appreciated and that we're ready to take care of them, and we want them fully bought in to Tap Cancer Out. And so when they're presented with the choice, they say, no, man, Tap Cancer Out's our thing. You know, that other tournament, they're here 3 times a year. We'll go the other 2 times. But on this day, you know, when Tap Cancer Out comes, which is only once a year, we're going to be there. And a lot of academies have done that this year, and that really means a lot. And hopefully it's because we have provided them a product, you know, a jiu-jitsu tournament that is well organized, that isn't high stress, that really means more, and is just, you know, overall sort of a more enjoyable experience than maybe the average tournament is.
Do you feel there will be a point in time in the future where Tap Cancer Out will hold such a prestige or weight where people won't go any other direction? Maybe perhaps even IBJJF will not schedule their events on your day because of what it means.
Yes. And there's a lot of ways you can get there. Like, maybe we get there because we become the official charity partner of the IBJJF, and then we're working together on scheduling or so. Like, you have to think outside the box. And yes, maybe someday we are just so darn big and important that no one wants to mess with us, or they fear the blowback of somebody being like, why would you schedule on the same day as Tap Cancer Out, you know? But it's a little naive to think that will ever be a thing.
Wait. So you don't think that Tap Cancer Out ever will be that big?
Well, there's a scale issue with how many events that we host. So do I think that Tap Cancer Out will be significantly bigger in the coming years? Of course I do. But when you only host 21 tournaments a year, it's hard to envision like challenging the IBJJF or something. Well, wait, like that. But now Jiu-Jitsu World League has done it. They probably only do a couple dozen tournaments a year, and they're massive as well. Yeah. They also are putting a whole lot of money into the tournament that I can't responsibly do or afford, you know, so I don't blame them for that. But yeah, I mean, but also, like, you know, we've been going to Massachusetts for 12 years now. This might be our 12th or 13th year that we've had a Massachusetts tournament. You know, the very first tournament we had barely more than 100. Now this year we'll have 1,000 competitors, and I would not suggest any other organization host a tournament in Massachusetts that weekend, because everybody loves to come to the tournament. But it took us many, many, many years, and a lot of these cities, you know, we're still visiting cities for the first time. Pittsburg, Columbus. This year, it's our first year there. So we have a long way to go before Pittsburg is 1,000-person tournament. And it because, it takes them coming, realizing that it's a great tournament, word of mouth, and more people come next year, and so on and so forth. So we understand the life cycle of these cities. Also, every market is different. Denver is growing really, really, really rapidly. Other cities don't, and then we end up leaving. Some send a lot of competitors, but the motivation to fundraise isn't there. Some cities, it's the opposite, where, we haven't really grown as much in number of competitors, but man, the amount that they fundraise for the number of competitors that they have is amazing. Like Long Island is like that. We actually went down from year 1 to year 2 in Long Island. There was another competitive tournament in New Jersey that day, but the average raise per fundraiser is probably going to end up being the best of any tournament that we have this year. So there's like a lot of different levers sort of that go into every tournament and understanding every market. But sure, but I would love a world where no one is hosting a tournament on the same day as the other is. Like there's enough weekends in the calendar for us to figure that out. And we look at the Smooth Comp schedule. We look at IBJJF schedule. We go to the Jiu-Jitsu World League site, and we will never choose a date that somebody had already planted a flag on. We'll never do that. Now, other tournaments might do that to us, and we may refuse to move, but if I know that any tournament, no matter how much they've crossed us over the years, any tournament that is already scheduled for a date, we won't schedule it, because I don't want to make people choose. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's definitely a dilemma that I'm sure is on your mind, but also on many others. I mean, it is a competitive world, and only selective amount of weeks or weekends in the year. Just it is what it is. A big part of running a tournament is referees and making sure that not only operation you run on time, but that things are fair. I mean, ultimately, end of the day, you and I step on a mat, and one of us will win, the other one will lose, and making sure that that's fair is important. What is your perspective on this?
The referee hiring is a super important element to what we do. So my head referee is Sergio Pimentel. He has worked as my head referee probably for 5 or 6 years. He also just worked as not my head referee, but just a regular referee for many years before that. So he's worked for Tap Cancer for a really long time. I entrust all the hiring to him. He has all the relationships. He knows all the rules and is very well versed in all of that stuff. Like, I could never ref a match. I would be so bad as a referee. I
What's
can't
so
pay
hard
attention.
about refereeing?
Because even when I'm doing scoreboard, I'll look away for 1 second and look back, and I've missed something completely. Like I can't remember. Like, where did you guys just come from? What position were you just in? I don't know. I can't remember. It's so, like, I've learned how hard it is to referee, and how, like, there is a lot of gray area to these positions and like what they do. And the referees take a lot of heat. People yelling and stuff. Even though it's a charity tournament, people want to win those medals, and winning seems to mean everything. So it's really difficult. So I entrust him to hire the right people, to a point where we appreciate having the same referees in a number of different cities. So we might have basically the same core group of referees doing Philly, Long Island, Pittsburgh. And I think it is a worthwhile expense to sometimes fly referees in. I will definitely put any referee up in a hotel that needs a hotel room. Like, we pay for their travel and all that. Like, we pay the same, if not more, as any other tournament. So I want to make sure that they understand, if they're choosing to referee for Tap Cancer Out, just because we're a charity, it doesn't mean that they're going to now get paid less. Like, I need you on your A game. I need you there on time, ready to go, ready to deal with all the coaches and parents that are going to yell at you. And so I'm going to pay you your rate, and I'm going to make sure that you're reimbursed for getting there, but like I will invest in bringing in referees that have worked for Tap Cancer Out for a long time, understand how we run our tournaments, understand how I expect them to deal with competitors, to deal with coaches, to deal with parents. And my partnership with Sergio is fantastic, and he understands like what I'm expecting of these people. So I'm actually very much removed from all of that. I pay them at the end of the day, but other than that, anything that he needs, if he says he needs an extra referee here or something, like I'm happy to invest in the referees because they play such an important role in what we do. And we have had some referees that weren't cutting it,
Yep.
and I sat there firsthand watching them blow calls, and we've had to take them off the mats. Like I'm happy to take them, just as happy as I am to pay to import a referee, from another region here, fly him in or whatever, because I know they're going to do a good job. I'm perfectly fine with yanking them from the mats if they're doing a bad job.
Is that a hard conversation?
Sergio typically has it, so I don't want to take credit for those conversations. It's not a hard conversation for me to tell Sergio, because by that time he's probably already watched them as well and seen these things happen. Now, it doesn't mean if a coach comes up to me and says, this referee is blowing calls, you have to take him or her off the mat. I'm not just going to kneel to a coach or something. I have to see it firsthand, but I have seen it firsthand. Like I have seen some of these people who are, especially like, if it's in markets where it's a little harder to bring in referees, they might be purple belts and, learning, and we have welcomed referees that are learning. It's never their first tournament, but we have, they'll always be shadowed by another referee. So like because we want to get more referees out there so that with experience, so that we have more referees to choose from in the future. So they got to learn somewhere. I'm happy for them to learn at Tap Cancer Out, but they'll always be shadowed by a trusted referee that makes sure that they don't like blow a call or anything.
Well,
so we'll
quality,
never put
right?
somebody out there by themselves that we don't think is qualified. On occasion, they're having an off day or whatever, and we will pull them off. We have pulled off referees that have engaged, aggressively or inappropriately with a coach. Whether the coach was also being aggressive and inappropriate, I've pulled them off the mats for that too. Like they can't react just because the coach is bringing his level or her level up there doesn't mean you can meet them there. Like you have to be bigger than that. So yeah, we've addressed it when we had to, because I want to make sure that the product out there is great. So yeah, the referees are really, really important to what we do.
Yeah, certainly, and I think this was really what separates the quality of the event like yours and everybody else's. And again, to each their own. Everybody has different goals, different budgets, and so on, and different missions. But the refereeing is a big part. There's no doubt that everything you do requires an enormous amount of people. Do you have a number of how many volunteers you have all across all the tournaments, roughly?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably 400 to 500 volunteers a year will help us. I mean, we try to get about 20 to 30 for every event, and we host 21 events.
That's a lot of people.
Yes, it is.
In addition to this, you have people who are part-time with you, who are full-time with you.
Yep.
All this folds into, I know you have several different teams for different purposes and all that, but all this folds into under you. Building that team, that cohesiveness, everybody stays on a vision, or with the vision, stays on a track. I mean, that's leadership 101 right there. How do you do it? What's your secret for everybody being cohesive? Not people thinking that there's I don't know, grass is greener on the other side, or perhaps they can do it better than you. Or how do you communicate effectively?
So that's one of the most important elements of Tap Cancer Out that I don't think a lot of people see, is the importance of like our culture and our team, and making sure that we're bringing in the right people. And I don't want to pretend that I have a perfect score in bringing in the right people. There have been a number of people who have come and gone for a number of different reasons, and sometimes it's just a vibes thing. Like they may work really hard, they don't make mistakes, but they're not like, there's some sort of friction just when they're hanging out with us at dinner or something. Like, you know, it's, even that element is really important to us, that everybody sort of gets along, treats each other with respect, but does their job. Everybody, the people that, certainly the full timers, but the contractors. So like Sergio would be a contractor, Shannon, our bracketing manager. Like we bring in these people, and we obviously pay for them to do this specific job, and to do it well. But if I'm bringing them in to do that job, I'm usually almost completely removing myself from that element of the tournament. So they have to be able to work alone. I'm not at every tournament as well. So like there are some times where even if they have a question for me, they can't ask it. So they're going to have to be able to work on their own. So it's really important that those people are all rowing in the same motion and direction, and understand what we're trying to accomplish as a tournament organization, how important it is for people to have a really great experience there. Um, we have to be empathetic to what they're going through, especially, and I struggle with this because we get asked the same questions over and over again at every tournament, even though we send a million emails like, what mat am I going to be on? We don't know what mat you're going to be on until we launch it. Okay, what time am I going? Well, it's on the schedule. We emailed it to you like 10 times, but sometimes, or for a lot of people, it's their first tournament. They're freaking out. They can't remember anything. They don't know up from down. And so we have to remember that, okay, and try to make them feel at ease, and so like they have to be good people, I guess, and the folks, the extended team that join us are, we have a role called a Jax, which is a jack of all trades. So that means this person has done almost every job at Tap Cancer Out. They can run merch, they can run check-in, they can run a ring, they can do podium, obviously, pretty much everything except bracketing, because bracketing is very sort of scientific, and only a handful of us can actually do it effectively, or correctly. So we always want to have one Jax there, because we never know where we're going to need them depending on how many volunteers we have and what they're comfortable with doing. We always have a volunteer coordinator. So they're the ones who are checking in all the volunteers, training them in the morning, making sure they stay through the end, organizing the breakdown of all that stuff. And um, so, but all of these people who have come into these roles, they all just started as volunteers. So they were a volunteer, and then they started to volunteer at more events, and then maybe they raised their hand and said, I'd like to get involved more deeply. I'd like to travel to your tournaments. So we call them super volunteers. So those people aren't paid, but we do pay for their travel. So they might come to 3 or 4 tournaments a year. Once you get into the Jax role, that is paid, but now you're expected to come to more tournaments. So yes, we've like built this larger team structure, which has been an ongoing process to figure out the best way to do it, and to staff every tournament, make sure we're not getting burnt out, and that all the full timers are off a certain number of events. Like I used to go to every single event for years and years and years. It wasn't until like our 75th event that I actually didn't go, because I had a wedding. So I had to make sure the team was ready to do it on their own. So, it's still a small team, though. We only have 5 full-time employees, 4 here in the office, 1 remote. We have a handful of fractional employees that help us with like finances and partnerships and things like that. So that's still a small team. And when you bring, like when we brought in employee number 4, well, that's a big difference from having just 3 employees, like that's 25% more. Now they represent 25% of the company. So you got to make sure it's the right person, and I think we did. It was
I think that's one of the most underestimated parts for
Right.
small businesses.
It's easy to go from employee 50 to 51 because if they don't work, you just get. But when you go from employee 3 to 4, that's huge, and then 4 to 5, and so So we've been the building the team is one of the larger sort of the things that I'm focused on, and figuring out like what's next and what roles are next.
What is the one or two characteristics that you look for? You want to, let's just say, bring somebody on for whatever role is. What are the universal things that you're looking for? Is there something specific that Jon has in his, let's just say, quote unquote, interview bucket that it's a deal breaker no matter what?
It's hard to unearth these things in an interview, which is why we like to bring on people who have already worked for us. So, for example, Glenn is my tournament director, but he's also been a friend of mine since 2008. He has worked dozens and dozens of tournaments. He was my very first volunteer coordinator. So he went just from volunteering a couple times, like my buddy coming to volunteer, no jiu-jitsu experience, doesn't train. But then he wanted to get more involved. He was a super volunteer, then a volunteer coordinator. So working his way up, that allows us to see how he works at events, how he works with people, how he trains people, and all of that stuff. So you get this sort of, you're able to preview them before you bring them on full time. Sarah, my academy relationship manager, she started out as an event manager. She was from Colorado. We had never met, so she came in here cold. So we had to make sure that type of person did show some sort of characteristics, because it's not like she had ever worked at a tap cancer out event before. She also didn't train. She does now, but didn't then. Two things that are really important, and you may not find this out until later, especially here, you have to be self-sufficient, sort of a self-starter. You have to be able to do your job without a lot of oversight. I'm definitely not going to micromanage. I've never been, if anything, it's the argument or the complaint is that I didn't help out enough. Like I'm ready and willing to hand all this stuff over to you, because that's how I like to work. I didn't like to be micromanaged. I didn't like people looking over my shoulder. But not only like be able to work on your own and handle your job, but to do the work when no one's watching. I don't care if people stay late or, no one's pulling all-nighters here. But just being willing, to make sure that the job is done, because the cavalry's not coming. If it's your job to, inventory all the bins back there, or make sure that they're all full, or like, no one's coming to do that. Like, if you don't do it, it doesn't get done. Like my driver, he's amazing. If he doesn't drive the trailer, I'm not driving it. Like, he's got to get the trailer there, because no one else is going to get it there. We all have specific roles and responsibilities, and they have to be able to do this on their own, and do it well. And not everyone is able to do that. And also sort of see the ancillary things that they need to do. Like I can't have someone continually coming back to me and being like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Like, figure out, like, what do we need next? Come to me with ideas. And my team does do that. Like, a lot of our good ideas have come from other people who are like, why don't we just do this? Why don't we just do that? Fantastic. Let's do it. Let's try it. So yeah, they got to be able to do the work when no one's watching. You have to be fully bought in at Tap Cancer Out. I mean, certainly no one's here for the paycheck, or just the paycheck. So,
I think one of the fascinating things as I'm listening to you is the fact that to the outsider, all of this might seem one successful company to company that brings a lot of money just from the amounts of dollars that are being advertised.
Yeah.
3, by far bigger than what you are talking about. And 3 or 4 or 5, whatever number I'm on now, extremely structured with processes. Now, more I talk to you, it almost seems the opposite of all of this. You rely on other people's ideas. You have an extremely small team, and it's very well connected.
Yeah.
The chemistry and attitude is more important than the hard work. I mean, that is very clear with everything that you're sharing. And you guys are not in for the money. Well, but
No.
look, I mean, these are simple observations, but you
Yeah.
said, we want to raise $5 million.
Yeah.
And you give all of it away. I mean, or most of it, right? It all of this paints a very different picture that you truly in this to change the world. You really in this to make an impact, not necessarily to benefit yourself. Is that how you feel about all of this?
To be honest, I have a lot of survivor's guilt. I have friends in the agency world and at the companies that I worked before then that were very just white collar corporate, not fun, not even the fun that ad agencies had. I have friends that are still working at those companies, and I have a lot of survivor's guilt that I was able to get out. I live a wonderful life. I have so much flexibility. All my staff does. I don't ever want somebody to feel like they can't go on their kid's field trip or they have to miss out on anything. I have to schedule my dentist appointments either early in the morning or late in the afternoon because I can't leave work I don't care about any of that stuff. Anytime they want to work from home, that's fine. All of the anxiety that I had at my other jobs about those types of things, and people are watching me clock in and looking at me when I clock out, and I don't ever want them to think that they have to be worried about that stuff here. Just get your job done. And we're going to know if you don't get your job done because we're the only, each of us have our exact things to do. So if I don't do it, it doesn't get done. If Becky doesn't do it, it doesn't get done. Just get your job done. And I really don't care. Now you're gonna we travel a lot. Sarah's on the road right now visiting academies in Pittsburgh. So it does require travel. It does require sacrifices in those ways. Yes, in those ways, I would be home more if I didn't do this job for my kids' games, but I would also probably be stuck in an office from 9 to 5. Whereas, we have to pick up our kids at 2 and 3:30 every day. And I could have never done that with any other type of job. So, and even just to be able to involve my kids in what I do, and they come to the tournaments and they work merch, and that's amazing too. And
Jon, do you love your job?
Of course I love it. Yes, absolutely. Now, are there downsides to it? Yes. Are there hard times? Yes. Do I have to make difficult decisions that might make other people upset and maybe even not like me? Yes, which is the worst part of it. And do we hit every single goal that we have? No. So there are I am still incredibly anxious before every single tournament, where it's really hard for me to even everybody knows, don't poke the bear in the morning. Don't annoy Jon between the hours of 7 to 10 before a tournament because I'm so revved up, because I'm just worried about anything going wrong. Not that any tournament has ever really been derailed. We have hosted every tournament and we've faced every problem. We have had the internet go out. We have had the AC stop working. We have had what could go wrong. Everything that could go wrong really has, although every tournament there's a new problem we've never faced before. So
let me ask you.
But
let me ask you this on that front. I actually had that written down earlier. What is the best event that you have run versus the worst event you have done?
Oh, I know what the worst event was.
All right, do share. Come on, be vulnerable. Tell me.
I'm not going to say this. I mean, it was just another tournament in a certain city, but it was so recently we made a lot of changes to Tap Cancer Out. We introduced double elimination, which is fantastic just for the efficiency of our tournaments, but it gives adults more matches. But we were actually giving kids too many matches. We were doing round robin, and it was really hard for, some of these kids are fighting four times, and I had parents telling me 3 matches was not enough, but 4 was too many.
Yep.
I can't give them 3.5 matches, so I don't know what you want me to do. So it actually reduced, the total number of kids matches that happen in a day. Some kids still fight 4 times because if they have a larger division, double elimination, all that stuff. So I haven't had any parent complain about the number of matches for their kids once we move to double elimination. And the adults are really happy with that 2-match thing. And the day goes quicker. So it's like a win-win-win for all of us. We introduced female masters divisions, which had been requested for a very, very, very long time. And we started to separate gender at 10 years old. So we have 4 to 5, 6 to 7, 8 to 9. They're not initially separated by gender. At 10, we do. But the tipping point now, like I go back and forth on it. Like I've seen 14-year-old girls before we switched before we separated genders. I watched 14-year-old girls absolutely mow down a division full of boys. Like some of these girls are absolutely amazing. And yeah, but there was one tournament in particular where I had so many parents like yelling and screaming at me about this like gender thing that it got like really hairy. And I was trying to say, like, I hear you. I can't change it right now. This tournament is already happening. Like these divisions are already happening. The division you're complaining about is already done. Like I can't now switch genders. I promise you I'm listening, and we're going to like look into it. And we did, and we separated gender. And now like when divisions are big enough at the 4 to 5, 6 to 7, or 8 to 9-year-old, and many of them we'll have 8 to 9-year-old divisions or 6 to 7 that are 20 to 25 kids. So we'll divide them down to like 7, 7, 7, 7, or 5, 6, or something like that. We split gender. We try to split gender first, put the boys with the boys and the girls with girls and all that stuff. That's fine. But the last tournament where we didn't have that, it boiled over, and I was like really, really shook. I did not go back there the next year. The rest of my team went. I couldn't go back. I just like when people are upset at my events, it's heartbreaking. And it's not like we didn't like do anything wrong necessarily. We didn't like bait and switch. We didn't say that we were switching or separating genders and then combined everybody at the last second or anything. Like they knew what they were signing up for. They signed up for a tournament that did not separate genders, and then once the division was over and maybe their daughter didn't do as well as they had hoped, then they came to complain.
Do you take these things personally?
Incredibly personally. Just ask my therapist. Yes.
Why
this is the most because listen, if I take everything personally, I want everybody to like me. I want everybody to enjoy the events. I want everyone to love Tap Cancer Out. I don't want anyone to ever have a bad time. Yes,
is
that
stuff
realistic? No. No. And that's what my therapist would tell me. Like, this isn't sustainable. Like, you can't expect this. And like, I know, but it still hurts. It still hurts. It still hurts my heart. Yeah. And
is that a testimonial that you really care?
What, like
the fact that you have this unrealistic expectation of everybody wanting to, everybody succeeding, this being well done, everybody, even liking you. Like this is, unrealistic expectation, right? But does this really come from the fact that you truly care about this project?
Yes, I care. Yes, I like it is my everything. So I don't, we obviously receive feedback after every tournament, and my team has a way to, record it and sort of take into consideration so we can make adjustments in the future. We've made so many adjustments and changes to our tournaments from feedback. Some of it not presented in a very nice way, but there was like a nugget of truth to it.
Yeah.
Like the worst parent I ever dealt with was not at the tournament that I spoke about. It was a different tournament. I had to actually leave the venue and go drive. I walked to Starbucks across campus. It was at a college campus, but I had to leave. I had to leave because she wasn't going to stop yelling at everyone and everything until I left. But it led to she was mad. I'm not going to go into it, but one of the bits of feedback was she wanted to bring her daughter to the medic table, obviously not very quickly because she came to yell at me first, and couldn't find the medic table. Now, our medic table is right next to the rings. It has a big red tablecloth, but she's like, well, why didn't you have a big flag or something? We have a big flag next to our medic table now and next to our bracketing table. So now you can even though it was not delivered well, I did listen to it and I will add it if I think it's a good idea and it makes sense. Not every day is a good idea, but
that speaks volumes about you and the organization, right? It's not necessarily the context of or the delivery of the feedback, but what is the feedback? What is the actual feedback, right? Is this a good idea?
And it's difficult because we can't. Any feedback, we can't initiate it immediately. So if they give us feedback, they're not going to realize it until next year, by that time they forgot that they even complained about it,
Exactly.
So we have to believe that it's just for the good of the organization and the community and the competitors that we, add this type of feedback or change to what we do. And, we introduced the alley now. I think we had it at Chicago last year, where our mats used to be one big rectangle with all the tables on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Our volunteers for years and years, they would have all the parents and the coaches and everybody on top of them, and it was not fun for them. And we would lose competitors. They'd leave and come back because we don't have we just have the belt and pole stanchions. And so we split the mats in half, separated them.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this at Masters Worlds. That's how they did it. And I was like, man, I'm jealous. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So then we put the tables on the inside and now the competitors on the inside. And that has made our tournaments way more efficient. We don't lose competitors. We deliver a bracket with full attendance from the division. All the competitors are there and we're ready to go. And we don't have to go find somebody or lose people because they're running away. We've had coaches complain about this, saying they can't have, pep talks with their competitors or things like that. And so I'm not going to go back to the way it was, but maybe, we're a little more lenient with if a kid is crying, we will bring them to their parent, or we'll get their parent to come in, or we'll get the coach to come in. I'm my whole job is to just walk up and down there, make sure everybody is composed. If I see a kid that's not composed, I'll sit down, talk to them if they need to be brought to their coach. So we're paying attention to that stuff, but I know how much better it's made our tournament and how many compliments we've gotten. So for the feedback that they don't like that, I'm just trying to figure out, how do we fix the element that they don't like while not simply going back to the way it was, because the way it was not it. So I know that this is better. So how can we figure out how to meet halfway a little bit? So we're always listening. We're always listening.
Well, what's the phrase? Step one of fixing a problem is identifying there is one. And I think this is where all it starts. We got to figure out, being willing to listen to what could be fixed, corrected, or changed. And then, being open-minded to making that change. I think that's that's where a lot of people, I think, fail overall in life, unwilling to listen to what might be happening, what might be better. John, there's no question that you guys are doing a phenomenal job. You are changing the world one step at a time, and it's really refreshing to see what you guys do. This is one of the reasons why we love you guys when you guys are in Chicago, and
Mhm.
you are coming in a couple weeks.
Yes.
As this episode is releasing, so it's going to be exciting to be part of this, and again, make a little dent. That's how I like to look at it. Just a
Mhm.
little dent to make this world just a little bit better. So as we coming to the end of this, I want to thank you for your time. That's number one. But number two, more importantly, I do want to thank you for everything that you do, because we need more people like you, in my opinion.
My pleasure.
Like you're a humble person. You speak about this very openly, but I do believe that you are doing something good, and that's that's worth saying. And this week we actually had a I'll take a moment here, pivot this into my circle, but this week we actually had a very sad departure, and one of our students passed, and so what you do, what your organization does, really hits home for us here at RŌL Academy, and so my head goes off to you. It's great to see what you do, and I hope that you do more, and I hope you guys do grow, and I do hope that one day Tap Cancer Out will be so big that everybody else will be considering you, not the other way
Exactly.
around. Okay, that's
You got it.
that's
I'll
how I
add
look
it to
at
our list of goals.
All right, Jon. Well, let's wrap this up for today. After 5 years, great having you on the show, great having this conversation, and I'm hoping this gives a little insight on to what Tap Cancer Out is all about, and who you are and what you do and what's ahead of you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Again, let's not make it another 5 years. Let's
agree.
Reconnect sooner.
I agree. Let's wrap this up for today.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.